All right, everybody, welcome to the Contextual Christian Church Bible Study, where today we're going to read First Chronicles chapter 26, verse 29 to chapter 27, verse 11. I'm going to pray it in. Everybody bow your heads. Lock my door. Father, thank you for making sure we're gathered for this Bible study. We're going to get into some more details, more context, but it's always a good thing to get into more details and context. I pray that when we get all of this and put this in our notes, and when we learn from what we're going to learn in today, while we're doing all that, I pray that whatever verse we're getting into, that it's easy to understand, and when we get to the definitions, that's easy to understand as well. And in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. So last time what we had gotten into, we had finished up with the porters, or in other words, the security guards. And that's pretty much what we went through. But what we fully finished up going through to verse 28 were the people who were in charge of guarding the treasuries, one for the regular treasury of offering and another for the dedicated treasury. And then we went through all the different people, well, not all of them, but a little list of some of the people who were leaders, among others, had dedicated money to the temple or to the house of God. And so that's what we finished up, was those two portions. Well, not finished up, but that's what we ended with. It's a pretty simple summary today, as I'll go ahead and switch it to the first section so that Charles can read.
First section, I'll be reading First Chronicles chapter 26, verse 29 to chapter 27, verse 1. I'm going to give it a couple seconds. Verse 29. Of the Etzharites, Chananiah and his sons were for the outward business over Israel, for officers and judges. And of the Hebronites, Hashabiah and his brethren, men of valor, 1,700 were officers among them of Israel on this side Jordan, westward, in all the business of the Lord, and in the service of the king. Among the Hebronites was Uriah the chief, even among the Hebronites, according to the generations of his fathers. In the 40th year of the reign of David, they were sought for, and they were found among them mighty men of valor at Yazer of Gilead, and his brethren, men of valor, were 2,700 chief fathers, whom King David made rulers over the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, for every matter pertaining to God and affairs of the king. Now the children of Israel, after their number, to wit, the chief fathers and captains of thousands and hundreds, and their officers that served the king in any matter of the courses, which came in and went out month by month throughout all the months of the year. Every year course were 20 and 4,000. All right. Let me get back to 29. So we start off with Etzharites, and of the Etzharites, Chananiah and his sons. It says they were dealing with the outward business over Israel for the officers and judges. On the outward, for the definition on this, Strong's definition, properly the outer wall side, hence exterior, figuratively secular. So Chananiah and his sons were basically over what happens on the other side of the walls that protect Israel, the other side of their outer perimeter, basically. That's what their business is about. Okay, cool. We got snakes on the west sector. Go get rid of them snakes on the west sector. We got some coyotes hanging at the walls on that, so go get rid of them too. We need them coyotes off the wall. Um, we got some people invading on the north side. Go handle that for me too. They haven't made it through. Go take care of that for me. So they're for the outer perimeter, the outside of the wall. So that's interesting. And next, let me read something. Oh, I know why it's doing this. Okay, so verse 30 talks about Hebronites. Ha Hash, Hashabiah. I don't know why I couldn't get that out. Hashabiah, his brethren, were mighty men, mighty powerful men. 1,700 of them were officers on for Israel, but on the west side of Jordan, dealing with the business of the Lord and in dealing with the stuff of the king, the service of king. I figured out why they brought him up. Let me read something in 31 before I bring up the reason why. So verse 31 is just bringing up Yeriah being like the leader, the chief, um, and him being among the Hebronites. And in the 40th year, as David being king in his 40th year while he's king, they went out and sought after the mighty valiant men, the powerful men. Um, Went to look for him at Yezer of Gilead. Next, I need to reread this. Verse 32. That's why. So Yeriah's his the men of mighty men, valiant men, chief men, chief fathers, sorry. 2,700 of them. King David at this time made them rulers over the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh for the things that pertain to God and the things that pertain to King David. And that's why I was thinking about them bringing them up, not leaving out that tribe that's on a different side of Israel, that chose a different land of Israel. We're still making sure we don't forget about them. Reubenites, half tribe of Manasseh, Gadites. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up with verse 1 of chapter 27, let me reread.
Mm-hmm.
Also, verse 1 is just saying, well, verse 1 has a number of the chief fathers, captains of thousands of hundreds that serve the king. But let me bring this in the matter of the courses. When I go to courses, the Strong's definition, let me re explain that. A section of Levites, people, or soldiers, company, course, division, portion. In this context, it sounds like we're just talking about a group of people, a portion of people, or a group of people.
Now, one thing I want to double check, re-explain what you said about the officers that were dealing with the outside, or they're just dealing with the outside. Because I wanted to
Let me
double
go
check
back to
what you
that one.
said.
Let me go back to that. That was 29. The Eterites of the Eterites. Chanania, which is I should have brought this up earlier. The individual
You sure it's
Chanania.
Chanania, first off?
Let me go. Sorry, Ka. This is a Ka. Kanania.
Remember, when it's in the English with the CH, keep in mind a lot of times it's normally the K sound. Unless you see the CH in the English and the CH in the phonetic, it's the K sound 9 times out of 10. But
Mhm.
go ahead. So your explanation part, I wanted to double check that.
Kanania and his sons. And that's what I brought up, them being dealing with the stuff on the outside of Israel, the outer walls of Israel. And I was bringing up the silly examples,
What do
but
you mean
uh
outer walls? What are you talking about?
um because I went into outward business, and when I went to outward, I did read the Strongs properly, the outer wall side, hence exterior, figuratively secular.
You're
And what
taking
I
that
meant
too
by,
literal, bro. Think about it from this perspective. The outer wall, did it say that there was multiple walls?
oh, let me go back to the Strongs.
No, 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 no,
It just
no.
said
In
outer wall
here,
side.
outer wall side. So if you're looking at a wall and you're looking at the outer wall side, what are you looking at? Are you looking at a second wall? Is that what that means?
No.
So why would it be the business that has to do with over the wall? What is it actually saying? You're overthinking it. It's really straightforward. I'm glad I asked.
So wait, what I said earlier wasn't, because when
No,
I think
it's
of the
not. It
outer
has
wall,
nothing
I'm
to do
thinking of
with a wall.
outside. I'm thinking of the other side of the wall. I'm not thinking of
What do you mean when you say that? You're not actually, I'm trying to make sure, like, give me an example so I can make sure if you were correct or incorrect.
um you have a house with a fence line. On the other side of the fence is public road, but on your side that's private. That's all you.
Okay, so give me an example of how it would work. That you just told me something existing. Give me an example of dealing with business on outward business.
So Matt, in your inner property, you have your own ranchers, you have your own people that take care of the property line that you have, all the things in your property. Outside of the property, past the fence line, you hired a security company to watch over on the other side of your fence line, on the other side of your land. You hired another company to patrol that area.
No. Okay. Problem with that. Where would the judges come in? If we're just talking about security guards, we're talking about porters. Are we dealing with porters here?
Well, I didn't say we were dealing with porters. I just gave that example. That was just an example
I
of
asked
what
you
I
to give
meant.
me an example explaining what you meant here. I'm trying to make sure if you're correct or incorrect here. So give me an
So an
example to
example
make what you mean
here.
here.
So an example here.
And just a heads up, Charles, if I ever ask for an example, I'm always asking about what we're reading. I want you to explain to make sure I understand what you that to make sure that you understand what was read. I'm never asking you to give a generic example of something random. Just a heads up, it should always be related to what you're trying to explain in the verse. It doesn't make sense anything otherwise.
So an example would be we've already read who the security and stuff inside of Israel. Whatever line that separates Israel from the outside, the other side of Israel's walls, the Etarites, Canania and his sons take care of whatever's outside of the Israel walls, whatever has to do with the stuff outside of there.
Okay, so give me an example of some. Okay, you're still not explaining. That makes sure you understand. What would give me an example of how there would be something they would be taking care of on the outside? That's what I said. Give me an example of
Um,
something happening outside and they're having to take care of it. Because you got officers and you got judges.
Taking care of outside stuff. If there was war, then people came to Israel for war. Get rid of all the dead bodies that's just scattered on the outside of the wall. Get rid of that stuff. Um,
Good. I'm
move
glad
any
I asked
cattle
because
that
oh, go. You're gonna continue? Go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say. If there's any like loose cattle on the outside of the walls that belong to Israel, get those cattle back in here. Move them. Don't just let cattle and stuff just scatter on the outside of the wall. Move them back in because they're ours. Um, Scout. Walk around the outer area on the outside of the walls and scout. See what's going on there.
Okay, I'm glad I asked because you're still not bringing up the part of the judges, Charles. Officers and judges is not porters. We made it a separation a couple chapters. Every time we brought up porters as being security.
Right.
Porters were separate from officers and judges. They weren't together. And
Right.
this says officers and judges over the outward business. Let me go ahead and give somebody else a shot. I'm glad I asked. Thomas, you said you're
Yeah.
listening in. right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. So what would be an example of the outward business in 29?
So in regards to the judges, say for instance, there was some mishap on the outskirts of the area. The judges would make a decision on what was to happen to whoever caused that mischief. That's what I.
Good. Good. Perfect. Yes, Charles. That's what is going on here. The outward business. What is business? Are cattle being outside of your wall? Is that business? Or is that
Oh, that was just
security?
an example I was trying to give.
Cattle,
Because I
but
wasn't.
here's the point. That's not the same thing. Cattle being outside of your house or your fence line has nothing to do with business. Business is the going on and dealings with other nations or other things going on, not just nations, but individual. Another good example would be like, let's say you had gone to war and there was some friendly fire that took place. So the judges and officers would be in charge of finding out who was actually condemnable in the situation. Let's say there was an agreement with another nation. The judges and officers would be in charge of what is the agreement and are the other side and this side holding up their end of the bargain. You see how that's different from what you said?
Yeah. Also, because of 29, they were for the officers and the judges. I should have brought it up as them just doing whatever the officers and the judges, whatever their decision was, they have to act on that decision. If this person needs to be punished or whatever needs to be done, the ones I had named, Kanania, his sons, they're the ones that take care of that.
Exactly. So if something pops off outside of the Israel, outside of the border, these would be the ones that were overseeing that. These would be the ones in charge of that. You see how that uh so I know
I
that you
see where I messed
understand.
up in my explanation and everything. I
Yeah,
see that part.
tell me what you messed up on in your explanation, so I know you understand the
Well,
difference.
I didn't bring up the officers and judges at all. That was one. And two, I didn't give. I was trying to kind of get into that point, but I really didn't do a good job really trying to explain the point. Um, because I brought up something random with the cow thing or the or dead bodies and stuff like that. That's not something that I'm thinking in my head. What are the judges and the officers going to say about that? They're probably focused on more important things than cow that ran loose or dead bodies from a war that already won.
Hmm.
So
Now, in the instance with cows, if you had an example where the cows were actually somebody else's cows and there was a debate on if somebody was stealing them or something, then that would also be a good example. But it's the business side that you didn't take into account in your explanation. The outward business over Israel. Well, outward business, you focus too much on a wall and less on what the wall shows. A wall shows a division of private versus public. So the outward business would be the business that is not just between Israel, it's between Israel and other people.
mhm.
So I wouldn't say you explained it wrong. I would say that you were incorrect in your answer. All right.
All right.
Now then, I'll go ahead and switch it to the second section. And then I'll go ahead and read. Give everybody a second. But in the meantime, does anybody have any comments or any questions? Would you raise your hand? All right. Now then, First Chronicles chapter 27, verse 2 to 6. In verse 2, over the first course for the month was Yashobeam, which is probably put together as Yashobeam, the son of Zabdiel. And in his course were 20 and 4,000. Of the children of Perez, was the chief of all the captains of the host for the first month. And over the course of the second month was Dodai and Achochite. And of his course was Mikloth, also the ruler. In his course likewise were 20,004. The third captain of the host for the third month was Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, a chief priest, and in his course were 20,004. This is that Benaiah who was mighty among the 30 and above the 30, and in his course was Amitzabad, his son. All right, now in this section, when we look up the word course, because as always, if there's a word that's used differently than we would have you normally use it today, we got to make sure we take that time to look it up and see what it actually means. So the word course here, let me get back to it, is mach aloketh, which just means a section, division, or portion. So in other words, we're going through these first three sections that we're going to be under these basically these groupings as what we talked about from Charles's section. The first one, which it pointed out 24,000, and it was under Yashobaum. And the children of Perez was the chief of all the captains of the host for the first. So in other words, Perez's children was over that one. And then in the second grouping, which also was 24,000, which we're starting to see a little combination, make sure to keep in mind how many of those we have. But of that, the second grouping also 24,000, but the one that was in charge of that was Mikloth and Dodai. And then of the third, we had Benaiah. And again, that was 24,000. But it goes out of its way to point out that Benaiah was among the 30. Now, question. Oh, wait. Chris, did you say you were just listening? Let me see. All right, Chris, I know you said you just listening today, but I do want to give a little bit of correction. You have been just listening the last few times in a row almost. Like maybe at one time or responding. So you need to take into account that if you're going to be on and you need to be on, you got to be ready to be involved, man. Like you've been falling back a little bit, not reading as much, not answering. If you need to be outside of your house, you live locally. There's no excuse for you to not be reading. Other people don't they have legitimate excuse. You don't in the position you're in life right now, every part of it. So just a little heads up.
Well, actually, I
Correction.
was gonna just answer right now, but just figure I'd let you finish your spiel.
Well, if you say you're just listening, that means you're not answering.
Well, it's actually quiet right now for once. That's why I was gonna say I could go ahead and do it.
Yeah, but in future
But
reference, I mean, you don't have to be inside your house. There are other places you could be where there's no noise. And I've been on your street, it's not loud outside. So there's no reason you couldn't step outside and be somewhere else where you could have quiet and be able to respond. I was just thinking about how little involvement you've had recently ever since you left my place. And that's a little bit of correction. You can be more involved than you're actually being. You're taking the convenience and comfort of being inside, which is making it to where you can't read, which means you're less involved. So you got to choose God over yourself in that circumstance. It's understandable if you have no choice, but you're not in a position where you don't have a choice right now.
I'm actually sitting outside right now, and
Okay, cool for the moment,
so but just go. My bad. Go ahead.
but the point still stands. You should be being more involved than you are. Just listening, all these times you've been just listening, there's not a legitimate excuse for that. So, being outside, cool. You should be more involved than you have been. Ever since you left, you've been a lot less involved, and I'm not the only one that noticed. So, anyways, with that being said, and that bit of correction, I'll give actually, you know what, Chris, since you said you are able to answer, and next time make sure when you type in listening, make sure to put listening and answering. Because otherwise, if you just say listening, I'm thinking you're just listening. You're not actually responding. But with that being said,
What's the question?
what
Excuse me.
is the 30? Or what is it bringing up about who's mighty among the 30 and
The
above the
mighty
30?
men of
What is
valor
that
that were with
referencing?
David. The
Good,
mighty men of valor that were. Oh,
good, exactly. So we had a listing before of David's mighty men. And technically we had more than 30. We had 36 or more, if I remember correctly. I think we had 36 specifically listed. A first group of 3, a second group of 3, and then 30. And Benaiah was in that second group of 3, which was not as honorable as the first 3, but was more honorable than the 30. And so Benaiah, that's what is pointing out of here. So of all David's men, there was these 36 that were more honorable than everybody else, or more men of value. In other words, courageous and strong, not just in physical, but in mental and in bravery. So that's what that's talking about. Good job, Chris. Now then, as I'll go ahead and switch it to the final section. There we go. And does anybody have any comments or any questions as we go to read this section? Go ahead and raise your hand. All right, then go ahead, Charles, when you're ready.
All right. I'll be reading First Chronicles chapter 27, verses 7 to 11. I'm going to give it a couple seconds. Verse 7. The fourth captain for the fourth month was Asael? Oh, Asael, the brother of Joab, and Zebediah, his son, after him. And in his course were
Zabadia.
20.
Remember, the
Oh,
A does not
Zebadiah.
make the E sound.
Oh, yeah, Zebadiah.
You do
Yeah.
that all the time with Zebediah, you say it. But it's
Because
Zabadia.
I'm about to say Zebediah, but I'm like, now let me pull that back. I always slip up on that because I'm
Well, if
always
you
thinking
said
about
it like that, it
Zebediah.
would make sense. Like if you want to say it like that, Zebadiah, Zebediah, that makes sense. But if you're gonna go for the phonetic of the original, it's Zabadia.
Yeah.
So if you're
So
gonna do it right, do it right. If you're gonna
Zebediah.
do it with the English, that's fine.
So Zebediah. And in his course were 20 and 4,000. The fifth captain for the fifth month was Sham. Let me double check. Shamhuth, the Itzrahite. And in his course were 20 and 4,000. The sixth captain for the sixth month was Ira, the son of Ikesh. Yeah, or Ikesh. Ikesh, there we go. The Tekoite. And in his course were 20 and 4,000. The seventh captain for the seventh month was Chelet, the Pelonite of the children of Ephraim. And in his course were 20 and 4,000. The eighth captain for the eighth month was Sebekai, the Husha. Is it a Hushathite? It is Hushathite of the Zarhites, and in his course were 20 and 4,000. So we're going down the list on my section: fourth captain, fifth captain, sixth captain, seventh captain, eighth captain. All the captains in my section and for your section, 20 and 4,000 for the course. It's probably going to go back to the explanation you did with the 12. Strong possibility is going to go. We're going to read 12 of them.
It's definitely possible.
Strong
But notice how it
possibility.
said from verse 1 too. It said that every course, or in other words, every division or grouping, they all were 24,000. So keep in mind how many we actually have of these sections, because as we go to read, notice every time it brings up these numbers multiplying multiple times, it tends to be adding them together.
And I probably asked this question too many times. It said also month by month when I read it in verse 1. Did they did 12 months, right? Or am I tripping?
No. If I remember correctly, in the original calendar, there was 13 months.
Okay, that's why I was well, okay. Well, I did say possibility it'd be 12. Possibility.
Yeah, remember,
So
we're talking about the lunar calendar.
yeah.
And and the thing is, even with our calendar, technically we are supposed to we had 13 months originally, even in our calendar. The word deca is actually the word for 10. The word October, that's the 8th month. So even in our own original calendar, if I remember correctly, there was 13 in our original calendar. Now, what were these groupings meant to do, Charles?
The groupings that we just got done talking about.
Mm-hmm. We know, as you brought up, it goes out month by month, but for what?
Let me go back to verse 1.
Good.
Chief fathers and captains of thousands and hundreds, and their officers that serve the king in any matter of the courses. I'm That's a broad sense of just serving the king in whatever things the king needs done, like any business or something. Because we didn't get this one didn't give me a specification for verse 1. Because we're already starting in this chapter, we're getting into a different subject, which are the courses.
Well, what do you mean it didn't give you any specification? That was a specification, is it not? What was their job?
Oh, in service of the king.
Exactly. Another way as we would think about it too is as the king's court. These are everybody that worked directly under the king for whatever the king needed. So basically, what have we been doing in these last sections in chapter 26 and 27? Oh, if you were to generically say.
We just been naming off the leader of a particular group of the in that leader in that group in service of the king, the servers of the king, basically, whoever serves the king.
In 26 and 27?
Let me go back to 20.
That's not what we were talking about in 26.
Oh no, that's the oh no, we got to the end. 26, we got into 26, we started off with the security guards and worked our way down to
The security guards of what? And no, when we finished 26, what we ended with was not the security guards.
no,
We
we
just
didn't end. I didn't say we ended with the security guards. We started with because you're talking about 26, so beginning of 26.
no, I said in the portion of 26 and 27 here, what have we all
Go
been
down to
dealing with
that portion.
generically?
We started off with those who did basically to execute the stuff that the officers and the judges were talking about, and then
But dealing with what? What were they dealing with?
Oh no, yeah, we're still talking about the service of the king. The last chapter, the first section I read was just those that were the
That's not the
Gibeonites,
service of the
half tribe
king.
of.
That's
You said
in
what?
20 in chapter in the very first section we read today. In chapter 26, it did not say the service of the king. We didn't get to the service of the king till chapter 27.
Oh, let me go back to verse 30. And of the Hebronites, Hashbiah and his brethren, men of valor, 1,700 were officers among them of Israel on this side Jordan westward in all the business of the Lord and in service of the king.
That is verse 1.
No, that's verse 30 of 26,
That's not where we started. We started in verse 29.
right?
What does it say in verse 29?
The Canania, his sons, the Isharites, the one that I explained wrong, that they take care of the stuff that whatever the judges or the officers decide on, they take care of what needs to be taken care of. When they say, "Hey, you do this, hey, do
Just
that."
all the judges and officers, Charles? You're leaving out the most important context.
Oh, Israel, for Israel.
Israel?
That's what we're over the
Maybe
outward
you should
business
reread
over
instead of guessing.
of the Isharites. Canania and his sons were for the outward business over Israel, for officers and judges.
Yeah, is that over Israel generically? Total? We just went
Well,
through this
then
whole thing, Charles.
Well, it started off with over Israel, and then it brought up for the
Not
officers and
over
judges.
Israel.
It didn't say that,
What did it just say? We just had this whole thing, Charles. Come on, man.
Matt. It says it in 29
It says
over Israel.
outward business, Charles.
Over
Outward
Israel, though.
business. No, that is a distinction for it. Over Israel means all of Israel. That would include inward business, Charles.
I
That
was
would
gonna bring
include.
that up.
No, because come on, bro. Come on. Let's not do that. Come on, bro.
You
You
asked the
did not
question,
bring
and
it
then
in.
you cut me off
I
from
said,
asking the question.
no, I didn't. I gave you a chance to answer, and you said over Israel. I said just over. Like, what do you mean? Like over Israel? What? Yeah, over Israel. I told you to reread it. See, now you're being dishonest. Now you're doing what Chris does sometimes. Instead of admitting you're wrong and actually owning up to your mistake, you're trying to reword it to where it's not what it was. You did not point out over the outward business of Israel. That is not the same as saying over Israel. We just had a whole discussion during this Bible study of that, of literally the outer wall, the business. Remember, Thomas answered that? I'm down to
Right.
1% on this phone. Let's go ahead and pray it out. You gotta stop doing that. Every single one of y'all. I'm giving you correction because it's correction. Stop trying to switch up your words to make you sound like you're not wrong. Pray
No,
us
no,
out,
that's fine. I
Charles.
can take the correction, but no, that's cool. I can take the correction, and I'm wrong for
Not
that.
if
But
y'all rewording what you say to make it sound like you're not wrong. You're not. And all three of y'all have done that recently. And it's this. I'm not here to babysit. I'm here to teach. And if y'all don't want to learn, cool. Let me know. But stop trying to reword to make it sound like you didn't make a mistake instead of just admitting to the mistake. Pray us out, Charles, before I
all
lose
right,
my
man,
battery.
bow your heads, Father. Thank you for giving us this Bible study, where we got some good knowledge, got some good correction out of that. I pray that after this Bible study, that we can get back and reread it maybe, and then get some rest after that. In Jesus' name, amen.